Hello.
Welcome to Two Idiots Talk, the podcast where two idiots talk to you, who are also idiots, about something, anything.
Whatever we want.
I'm Nate.
I'm Will. And sometimes it's going to be a little more informal than others like this time because we're probably just going to get real angry. This is a much more political episode, so be ready for
Barubi,
that.
that's the guy's name. How do you say that? Barub? Jack? What is that?
So,
and Tolter. What was the other?
suburbs, civilization, the economy, racism,
How we've constructed society.
capitalism,
No.
everything, the human race,
Don't say that word.
our death wish.
I'm fucking sick of it, Will. I'm sick of
I know
capitalism.
you do.
Dude, I remember vividly. Well, okay, this is partially time hop's fault too, but I would be like tweeting in on Facebook and shit, being like, "Hey, capitalism's pretty cool. Like, it's giving us like a lot of freedom and like choices."
iPhones and technology and yeah.
And then I went to college.
The hub of leftist thought where they radicalize you. No, not really. I went to fucking
literally.
art school, and that shit was... I went to art school. There were Trump supporters at art school. This shit, college does not... You get radicalized at college if you have half a fucking brain.
That's another episode. Why college radicalizes you.
Yeah.
This episode is going to be about white flight.
White flight to and fro, back and forth, the waves. It's going to be... I don't know how big of a topic. This is going to be difficult to maybe keep us either in line. I don't know. That's why I'm conflicted on whether this should be a talk or a chat episode. Little meta there for you on the podcast. Hey, but
Well, I think because we're drinking, it should be a chat episode. But I'm still gonna number.
Oh
it.
yeah, we're drinking. So if we're a little slurry, it might be because of that. So our apologies, but I don't give a fuck. Anyway, because we're cool. We're cool like that. We're so fucking rad.
This is the first cool episode of our podcast.
We are no longer dorks officially. All right. Is there any particular place you want to start off on this, or?
Basically, I had some quotes from the CBS article. I thought it was the best, like, constructed one.
Okay.
Just the fact that, like, poorer and people of color are moving to the suburbs, and one of the quotes from the CBS articles was like, yeah, cops usually in suburbs really didn't know, like, what to do. Like, they didn't have anything to do. They didn't really have anything to do. So
right, yeah,
like,
because it was like they were like writing tickets and shit, and they were just like, oh, you ran a stop sign, and then all of a sudden, like, poor urban people are coming to the suburbs, and which is kind of the reason I didn't like this article, because it sounded a little racist.
Oh yeah,
Because it was like poor minorities are moving to the suburbs, and now cops are dealing with real crime.
Yeah, cops were like, brown people, now what? We can't just write speeding tickets and get away with our quotas. Fuck.
Well, actually, it probably would help with their quotas if you think about it.
Well,
but
if they just racial profile, I don't know. Yeah, all these articles were like somewhat racist.
no, I was getting that feel for a lot of them too, but I was trying to look past that because they did have some decent information in them. I guess we can kind of talk about a little bit of white flight, of the original white flight, you know?
Okay.
At first. So, unless you're unfamiliar with the term white flight, it is about when the civil rights movement was happening in the mid-20th century. I guess that was one of them. So pretty much white flight happened for a long period of time. As black people started to migrate up to the north into cities because they didn't want to be sharecroppers on the farms they used to be slaves on, and they didn't want to deal with like the fucking disgustingly racist South. They were moving to cities in the South, and then they were moving up north, and also into the cities in the north. And white people were going, oh, Hell fucking no. Absolutely not.
Cities?
I gotta live next to brown people? Hell
Shit.
no. And they flew out of the cities at enormous rates into suburbs, which were only just beginning, and they were building family homes separated from each other in small towns, I guess you could say, instead of living in larger buildings close together in the dense urban areas. And as we well know, with redlining and everything, this led to urban areas becoming very poor, regardless of their tax income, and suburbs becoming very wealthy because all the wealthy white people were leaving into them.
So, like,
That was kind of the gist of the white flight originally.
I'm not too familiar, but, like, before that, in America, did suburbs and, like, small towns not really exist? Like, were all communities
No.
efficiently organized and, like, had a solid community?
I wouldn't say efficiently organized, but I would say everything was like rural or urban. Like,
Okay.
but also urban cities weren't what we think of they are today. Like, they weren't fucking skyscrapers, obviously. They were just dense living, larger buildings. Because skyscrapers back in the day were like 5 stories.
Right.
5, maybe 10 stories. Those were like, whoa, that's so tall. It's a skyscraper.
We needed
And
elevators.
now it's like fucking 50
People
to
are
100.
too lazy to
Yeah.
take stairs. I don't.
Stairs fucking suck.
I guess I could look up when elevators were invented. But yeah, basically,
It doesn't matter.
the creation of the suburb was like the downfall of society.
And that is our thesis.
Well, I mean, you sent me all those videos that were like, yeah, suburbs are like super inefficient and like they spread out our resources and tax dollars are
Yes.
are stretched thin.
Yes. I guess for our audience, there's this really good YouTube channel called Echo Gecko. That's ECO, and then gecko like the animal, so GECKO. And he talks about the suburbs in detail and also like neoliberalization in general. And he has a whole series, it's like six or 7 videos long, where he talks about how they're destroying the environment, they're destroying the economy, they're not even profitable. They're literally not profitable, like as like from a government perspective. Like, even though it's a bunch of rich people, the city is getting no money from them, and suburbs
Yep.
are subsidized by urban taxes,
Yep.
which is insane. Which, granted, probably is only more recently.
Like, I already knew.
Yeah.
I already knew fuck yards. I already knew like fuck commutes.
Fuck
I
yards.
I didn't know.
Fuck turf grass, bitch. God damn.
I didn't
I want a
know.
fucking mushroom garden in my goddamn lawn. Yeah.
Like, fuck roads, man. We have so many fucking roads for private transportation. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It is so dumb.
We fucking, like, that's like one of the parts of the video of Gecko Gecko's videos is LA. Holy shit. Hold on real quick, Nate. I want you to go to Google Maps right goddamn now. Right fucking now.
I'll have to type with one hand.
Type with one hand and go to Google Maps. All the listeners, go to fucking Google Maps right now. Zoom out. Go to California. From far away, from very far away, find Los Angeles. Change the map to satellite view. And just slowly zoom in until you can see the gray fucking hellscape that is LA.
I don't know how to change to satellite. Oh, there
In
we
the
go.
bottom left corner, there should be like a little square.
God, my
that says
internet
satellite
is so
image.
slow.
We can't have anything good in this world.
It's not loading.
Wait, like satellite image isn't loading?
Yeah. If I zoom in, it just looks fucking like a blob.
Holy
like
shit.
A blur.
Your computer fucking sucks.
I give up.
Well, regardless. LA is considered a fucking mega city, but if you really like go into it and look, this isn't a city. This is not
It's
a
just
city.
roads.
It's just 99% roads and fucking single family homes everywhere. Fucking everywhere for miles and miles. It's a desert of concrete.
That's
It is
why
horrifying.
The Sprawl. That's why the song "The Sprawl" by Arcade Fire is so sad.
Yeah.
It's an anti-capitalist teenage youth anthem.
There's so many
About-
songs that I used to listen to that are anti-capitalism that I didn't realize were anti-capitalism until I became an anti-capitalist.
Amen.
That's like
All right,
fucking
let's-
conservatives listening to like Rage Against the Machine
Oh God. Oh God.
and being like, yeah, this is just cool, not
Dude,
realizing what the fuck it's about.
I remember watching that video of that guy waving the Confederate flag to Killing in the Name of.
Mm-hmm.
He was like 60, 70 years old and just waving the Confederate flag,
Yeah.
banging his head to Killing in the Name. I was like,
And the wife was just like
This-
head banging and like screaming the lyrics, and everybody's just like watching them like, what the fuck are you, what?
I was
What's
like,
wrong
this
with you?
cannot be parodied. This is too funny for real life, Will.
I want to believe in my heart of hearts that was fake and that those people knew exactly what they were doing. And I just can't anymore. There's too much like dumb ass shit happening for me to think
Anyway,
that is fake.
We got to get back on track here.
Yeah,
Let's see.
sorry.
What do we really want to get into? Basically, what we want to say is that all these articles were like super racist and were like race profiling, not profiling, but like lumping poor people into also brown people and saying that they were moving into suburbs and out of cities, which were making suburbs more poor, and a bunch of like white, affluent, older millennial and younger Gen X generations were moving into the cities with like small families and
Yeah.
sapping the income.
It was like the articles were talking about, like one of the articles in particular was talking about how poor minorities are moving into the suburbs and bringing their poverty with them.
Yeah,
Like-
I was like, what the hell?
But when
You
you
can't-
watch, so Echo Gecko, his videos are very informed. He did his fucking research. And one of the things he mentions, like I said, is that suburbs are not profitable in terms of taxes. So even before poor people were moving into the suburbs, which we'll get into in a second, suburbs, the fact that it's so spread out, it was, I forget the exact term it is, but essentially it's the land area consumed per capita is so large, and the fact that most government utilities, I guess, like things that are being provided to the people, the costs are mostly based on the area they consume.
Yeah.
Suburbs take up a ton of that with pipes, with electricity, with heating and whatnot, because they're like, there's no trees around, there's no, they're not
Electrical
close
lines
together.
too.
Right.
Yeah.
So even like with how it's a single family home that's so big, but there's no coverage, they also are like constantly using air conditioning and heating. So they're not profitable no matter who's living there, whether they're rich or poor. So they were already losing money. So it's like originally you have rich white people were living in cities because that's where all the money was back in the mid 1800s to early 1900s. And
Yeah.
then black people started moving to the cities because that's where, you know, the money and the jobs were. They wanted their fucking jobs. They didn't want to be sharecroppers anymore.
And the public transportation.
In the public
You
transportation,
didn't have
exactly.
to own a car.
Exactly. And so white people moved to the suburbs hoping to get away from it. But then now what's happening is suburbs are losing money. Cities are so suburbs are losing money. They have been for a while. Businesses don't want to stay in the suburbs because they're losing money. Businesses are moving back to the urban areas. As businesses move to the urban areas, that brings more money to the urban areas, which draws more people to the urban areas, but also people with money. This is why gentrification happens. So now cities are getting gentrified, driving up land value, driving up rent, driving poor people to the fringes and into the suburbs. Poor people are going into the suburbs. White people are getting more scared of the poor people going into the suburbs and are moving back into the cities. So now we have, the numbers are poor minorities and college students are moving into the suburbs right now, whereas
Because it's cheaper.
more wealthy, where it's cheaper, whereas more wealthy older millennials and younger Gen Xers, so between 30 and 45, are moving back into the cities.
Yep.
The oldest like boomers, they're staying in the suburbs. They don't want to move. But that's, whatever. They're about to die anyway.
I feel like the articles didn't even need to touch on that. But you were saying about gentrification. I love that the CBS article was like, nah, this isn't because of gentrification. Like, gentrification isn't the cause of this at all. And then the Gizmodo article I read was like, yeah, no, this is just straight up gentrification.
Just gentrification.
They're just re-gentrifying cities. That's all it is.
Yeah. They're taking, just like with Cleveland here in Cleveland, not to dox us, but here in Cleveland.
Oh, it's so evident. It's awful.
It's like the
like
Midtown
Lakewood
area.
Specifically.
Lakewood and Midtown are like, they were completely empty and just poor people.
Yeah.
And now
sorry
that's
if you don't live in the Cleveland area or aren't familiar, but
yeah, exactly.
Even just driving through, you recognize that Lakewood and Midtown are gentrified as fuck.
That's another thing. Like, it's weirdly, it's not even just urban versus suburban. What's happening is a bunch of people are moving back into downtown Cleveland and the very, very, very direct suburbs. And the fringe suburbs, the extreme, like, right there suburbs, are turning into mini cities. They're turning into little mini hubs that are being gentrified up, and rich people are moving in. So it's almost like what's happening is urban areas are becoming more rich and suburban areas are becoming more segregated.
Yeah.
As suburban
just like
areas
Evanston,
are building,
where I want to live one day.
Right.
That's like exactly what happened.
It's almost like in some people are viewing this with a hope, like I'm so pessimistic about the future, but some people are like watching this and being like, okay, this is the hope. Yeah, this is the hope for the future because suburbia is destroying the environment because it's all fucking turf grass and concrete. Ugh. And we're killing the ecosystems. So like, yeah, urban, move back to urban. But as we're doing that, it's all being just specifically designed for rich white people.
Yep.
And not poor minorities. And not everybody in general.
Will, you gotta have money to have a clean conscience about the climate crisis in a capitalist society. If you don't have any money, then you can't buy any of the shit that is gonna help you save the planet. Duh.
Or no.
If you don't want to have turf grass lawn, if you want to have a fancy electric car, you gotta have money.
Hot take here, but what you really gotta fucking do, Nate, you gotta have money, and then you be vegan, and you shove that down people's throats. Because if you're vegan, you're fighting the system, man. Even though you're participating in every other fucking way that exploits animals and exploits slave labor, and you don't give a fuck about that shit.
Listen, I had a very nice, delicious lamb shank last weekend for my girlfriend and I's 5th anniversary. We got some nice takeout, and this lamb shank was so delicious, I actually got upset with vegans for refusing to eat delicious lamb.
You're just fucking taking bites and just like, God, fuck vegans, dude. What the fuck? Like,
we can do an episode on veganism another time. I'm actually gonna take a note on that.
Now, I mean, hey, like, I'm of the mind that like the ideal future for humanity is
soybeans.
Yeah, right. Is hyper urban living in like these things called arcologies, where it's like gigantic towers where everybody lives that have like huge fucking gardens in them and just have like direct farm rings around them, and everybody's a fucking vegan. Like, you know, of course it's idealistic and it's very futuristic, but like that's honestly, in our current fucking state, the only goddamn way humans are going to survive. I am so we are destroying like the environment. We are in more ways,
and the suburbs are a big part of that.
Why a huge part of it. But this is why we like had an issue with this episode might get dialectical, is because there's so many different things to talk about. Like, it's not just suburbs, it's not just fossil fuels. Like, suburbs alone are just such a small part of it, of like not even just like income inequality and wealth inequality, but just like eco destruction. Like, it ties into so many different things of just our culture in general, like with cars, with how we view nature, with how we view like even masculinity. Like there's a lot of like ties of masculinity to like
Oh shit.
taking care of your lawn
Yeah.
and like
Dude.
having perfectly cut grass, which grass
Don't
is
even
a
get me
carbon.
started on lawns.
Dude, like grass, mowing your lawn expels more fucking carbon than like the grass eats up. Like,
Dude, our audience already knows this, even though they're idiots. Lawns are stupid. Grow a garden. God damn.
honestly, dude, seriously, I've been seeing more and more like lawn gardens, and I fucking love it, dude.
That's
I
like
love
good
seeing this shit. Like gardens
yeah,
with
like
fucking, not even just gardens, like fungal gardens. Like they have like fungal yards where it's like
Dude.
moss and fungus and mushrooms and flowers and shit, like as their lawn instead. Which also, fuck yeah, that's way prettier than fucking this disgusting centimeter of grass. What the fuck is that shit?
That you got a pedicure every week? Fuck that shit.
Yeah,
No.
I don't want to do that.
I also loved that every one of these articles brought up the fact that public transportation was not as readily available in suburbs, and therefore everyone was struggling to get to work, even though it was cheaper to live in the suburbs. But in order to live in a capitalist society that we've created, you have to own a car to get to work.
Yeah,
Because living in the suburbs is more like idealistic and part of the American dream than, living in the city and not having a car and taking public transportation. God damn, dude.
the American dream is destroying everything. I have this view of the future, like this specific dystopian view of what's going to happen. Let me see. Okay, I want to make sure that we've addressed everything that everything at least tangentially that I need to address for this, because
Oh my God, that's so much. I feel like, at least
Maybe.
in my mind, I don't know where you're going.
all right, so quick summary. So people fled to the suburbs when poor people were moving into the cities. Suburbs were not profitable. Cities were profitable.
Now we're experiencing the downfall of that.
And in the downfall of that, businesses fled the suburbs back to the cities,
Housing
bringing more
crisis, yeah.
money back to the cities, which drew rich, young people, depending on what you call young people, whether you mean fucking teenagers or you mean like 30 to 40-year-olds.
Childless,
young
as
in,
the articles say.
Yeah, childless 30 to 45-year-olds are going back to the cities, which is bringing more money to the cities and taking away even more money from the suburbs, but then it's also gentrifying the cities, forcing poor people out to the suburbs where they have less job opportunities. Like they have to exchange more of their life for a car. Like one of the parts of the Echo Gecko videos is just the average cost of a car per year for the average American is about $9,000 to $10,000 a year. And with the
Dude, I
median
hated that
income,
so much.
with the median income of a fucking American being about 30K, 30 to 35K, that is an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
So
Dude,
these poor people
I don't
are
know
putting
how many
push
of
to
our
the
audience-
suburbs. Yep. What?
So go back to your point about anti-capitalist music. There's this song that Metric wrote, I think in like 2003, but one of the refrains is "Buy this car to drive to work to pay for this car."
Yeah.
Like, fuck. Damn.
It literally is. This is this exploitation cycle of just like keep poor people poor, not dying, but just poor, so that they
yeah.
barely eke out an existence, but they have just enough money to buy some luxuries so that they don't feel like they're slaves.
Yep.
Like, and as these people are getting pushed to the suburbs and getting forced to spend more and more on transportation, and their cities are getting degraded even more. So like now, urban poor people and minorities were already facing like education issues where they have no funding for their education because of redlining and shit.
Oh yeah. Oh Jesus.
Now it's going to be worse in the suburbs. And honestly, with all of this, and plus all the eco-destruction causing, accelerated climate change, my view of this is in 50 years, what's going to happen is all of the rich people are going to live in cities, are going to live in fancy fucking cities with parks and nature and everything. Poor people are going to live literally right outside of the cities with nothing to do but work because they have to pay for their cars to get to work. But then also, as the economy gets destroyed, America's going to move more back towards manufacturing jobs instead of service jobs. And what's going to happen is there's going to become a centralized hub of rich people surrounded by factories that the poor people work who are just on the ring right outside of factories.
Dude, I hate to say it, but to keep on brand, doesn't really take a genius to figure that out, because Susan Collins, is that her name? The author of The Hunger Games, which I it's literally that. Like, yeah. Every science fiction author already fucking knows this shit.
But I don't see. Yes, but like, I hate being that guy who's like, this has already been discussed in science, in sci-fi. Just like with AIs, I'm not as afraid of AI as other people are because I think it's overblown in sci-fi. But like,
oh yeah, for sure.
When you start,
that's also just like a click factor too.
Right, exactly. But like when you start thinking about the state and future of like what we're doing to ourselves, finish that drink. When we think about, when we think about the future and of what we're currently doing to ourselves, I can't help, even regardless of what people have already wrote about, I can't help but think that that's just the path we're going towards.
Yeah, it's like, fucking depressing.
It's
because like, what can we do?
What the fuck can we fucking do? I just. It's so hard. This is why we're drinking this episode, because we're it's so depressing and angry.
Will's trying to black pill me this week, and it worked.
Yeah. I feel like we're both blackpilling each other. We just keep sending each other tweets on Twitter, just getting each other more and more angry.
I've been like reaching out to my other leftist friends too, being like, guys, I'm so blackpilled. Please help me out. Please, I don't want to be this hopeless. And they're just like, no, you're basically right. Like, that's about it.
God damn, it's so this is like the epitome of. It's kind of sad. At this point, this is just going to be a chat episode, Nate.
Wait, no.
But
no, I already knew it was going to be a chat episode, given that we were drinking. Okay. But I'm still going to number it because fuck our audience. They're all idiots anyway. I did want to mention one last thing that was like kind of on topic. But I used to live with my uncle in Brunswick, which is like a suburb, basically. It's like south of Cleveland. But my uncle worked in Cleveland, and he commuted from Brunswick. And then he would come home and complain about like how poorly the taxes and like property taxes were allocated for schools. So like another large problem of like why suburbs are suffering is because local governments don't know how the fuck to allocate and use tax resources and tax stratifications like based on income. None of that is organized, and none of that gets done well, so that the people, everyone in every tax bracket feels like they're being cheated out of something.
Yes.
And it's just all a shit show. And yesterday I watched an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia with my girlfriend, and very relevant to what we were talking about. But Mac and Dennis, I don't know if anyone in our audience watches the show, but basically the whole cast is just a bunch of shitheads. And they decide to move out of the city in Philadelphia to a suburb of Philadelphia in order to save money.
Yeah.
And they can't fucking hack it, even though they're saving money. And literally every like 5 minutes, it just shows Dennis commuting to work, literally screaming his lungs out, being like, "You fucking idiot! God damn it, I'm just trying to get to work." Then he comes home, yells at his neighbor, comes home and yells at his wife, which is his friend who he's living with. It's just fucking extrapolating on like the horrible nature that we've created for ourselves that is suburbia. And then the last thing I'll touch on is there's this movie directed by George Clooney with Matt Damon, and it's called Suburbicon. Very underrated, has really poor reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and like other movie review sites, but I really liked it. I thought it was a really cool like twist on a mystery movie. But it was about a black family moving into a suburb in like the late 60s. And this black family was like, had all of the attention in the town. And this white family who was living next door to them was doing all of this heinous, evil shit. And all of it went unnoticed because the black family was having like protests outside their house literally every night. And you're just like, this is still fucking happening. It's
holy
20 fucking
fuck.
20.
That's just an allegory for all of 2020.
Yeah, literally.
Like, oh my god.
And it came out in like 2018, I think. It's not that old of a movie, but yeah.
God, we've been talking about this shit for so long. Why the fuck? Yeah, I just and that there was one thing you said in there that reminded me. It's like just there's something also about suburbs that I hate is they tend to be rich white people who mostly advocate for lower taxes.
Oh yeah.
So there's like they're already barely affording to like supply their town with tax money, and they're getting money from urban areas, even though they say they don't want welfare programs, and then they advocate for lower taxes, which just exacerbates it more. And it's just the constant stream of hypocrisy and just like bad coincidences just slowly destroying our society.
Mental disconnects, yeah, like obvious disconnects. I don't know, like the thing that my uncle used to always talk about was like, yeah, our schools aren't getting as well funded now. And like I grew up in a suburb too, in Menor, Ohio, which is in Lake County. But our school is like one of the biggest in the state. And like the year after I graduated, a bunch of heroin circles started forming precisely probably because of what these articles are talking about. Like lower income families started moving to the suburbs, and like I don't know who like selling all these drugs, but like it's probably just an extrapolation of like drug problems. And the last thing I'll say, what we
talked about before with the drug wars and CIA and shit.
Oh yeah. It probably wasn't an accident. I don't know. I forget which article said this, but one article called like the white flight, urban decay, like poor families and brown families moving to the cities was the decay of cities. And I thought that was extremely racist.
Oh my God, yeah.
Now they're talking about an urban revival, which is like, how, that is too on the nose. Like you can't fucking say that.
As black people are moving out of urban areas and white people are moving in, this is a really good rejuvenation of the urban centers in our country.
I couldn't believe that they used those words. They literally used them in tandem in this same article, Urban Decay and Urban Revival. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That you can't do that. That's fucked up.
Oh my God. This entire episode's political, but so it doesn't matter that I'm saying this, but it's very similar to one of the the central points of fascism.
God, no. I can't wait to see where this goes.
Two contradictory points about a certain people or group or whatever. So it's like in fascism, your enemy is both strong and weak at the same time. They're morally weak, they're rats, they're undeserving of empathy, blah, blah, blah. But simultaneously, they're so strong that you need to centralize around one great man, like Hitler or Mussolini, to fight against them.
Yeah.
And there's just been so much, and not that I'm saying like everything about white culture in America is fascist, but there's so many, there's so many fucking tangents with it, where it's just like, everything white people have been saying for the past fucking year has just been so fascistic. It blows my mind of just like, of that thing where it's like the enemy, Antifa, is both weak and strong. Leftists, SJWs are both fucking whores and prudes. The fucking left in general. They're
It's
trying
true.
to kill you. They're trying to come and murder you in your homes, but also they're weak little rats in the street.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of, white people are just openly Nazis at this point, and they hate fucking Jews. But it's just... And this is coming from two fucking white people. This isn't white guilt, by the way. I have zero guilt for being white.
Dude,
I have...
also, like,
But I
something that
hate America. I hate America so fucking much.
something that I strongly associate with like white culture, in quotes, if you can even say that, is toxic masculinity. Like you said before, I feel like that does not exist within other segments of culture in this country. Like
Yes.
there are no other communities that perpetuate the desire and like must.
Well, I'd say there are definitely other communities. There's probably communities. I think toxic masculinity is more of a symptom of misogyny than it is a symptom of white superiority.
Okay,
But
yeah.
it is a central part of white superiority, I will say.
And it just bleeds into other parts of capitalism.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, when people like Nate and I say white culture and like what it means to be white and shit, we're not saying that every white person is like this. We're not saying that you deserve to feel guilty
of
and
course
feel like
not.
shit
No,
for being
yeah.
white. This is just
Educate yourself.
what is perpetuated by a society that is dominated by rich white people, and it is a fucking fact that
Yeah.
America is dominated by rich white people. So the culture that is imbued into society by that is what people mean by white culture.
Yeah.
So don't get offended if you're white and we're saying this.
Dude, I remember talking with one of my cousins one time, and he's like in the very beginning stages of like becoming political. He's 15.
Yeah.
And I remember asking him if he thought racism was a problem in the U.S. and he said no. And I was like, my jaw just hit the floor. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And like reading all of these articles, I was just like, how can you read
Yeah.
any of these articles and just be like, yeah, racism doesn't exist. It's not a problem. Because
I hate to
all of
always-
these articles touch on race. Like
Yeah.
they just lump
And they
poor
always,
people
like-
with brown people.
And they always passively connect all of these negative connotations and negative adjectives
Yeah.
to poor people and minorities.
Passively
When they-
keyword.
Yeah. And it's like that's what when people say there's like, well, there's multiple aspects to it, but that's part of the thing that when people say systemic racism and shit, like when it's built into our society, it's these very small cues that you give to other people of being like, for example, blackness is connected to being poor and being a criminal and being obnoxious and blah, blah, blah. Being, as somebody who grew up under a definitely racist father, I know that happens, and they're very defensive over it. Like, that's
Hey,
I
that's
don't
okay.
mean black people. I mean a certain culture. And then I go,
Yeah,
okay, but what culture
yeah,
do you mean?
Parts of my
And-
extended family are also very racist.
Yeah,
So I get it.
It's so aggravating. I'm so glad I grew out of that. Like I grew away from that. What were you saying right before that? Because I was gonna say, I hate to always bring up that I was an ANCAP before, but it's always funny because I was a piece of shit, and it's funny to like reflect on the fact that I had very similar ideas to a lot of the people we talk about. So like I can almost understand them like way more empathetically than other people can because I was that way. So it's like I can understand and realize the stupidity of those things, but I can't remember what I was gonna say. Fuck.
You lucky fuck.
Yeah.
I feel like my transition was way too fast because like even in high school I was starting to question when I took my AP government class. I was like, wait, government is basically just a sham? Like none of these fuckers know what they're doing. And then I got to college and like started talking to more people who had more leftist ideologies, and I was like, and initially, of course, I had like that cognitive dissonance, but I was so willing to throw away my past opinions and ideas. I don't know. I feel like it came too easy to
I
me.
mean,
And that like detracts away from a lot of my like
I
what
wouldn't
I
say
should
so.
feel empathy for. I don't know.
I think young people are more willing to abandon is a harsh word, but like discard their shitty past ideals because we recognize that there's no inherent worth to them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like the older you get with one ideology, the more like you're like, no, I felt this way for so long, I can't possibly change now. Like,
oh yeah,
I pride myself on the fact that I went from in high school not political at all. I probably hypercentrist. Like I didn't care. Like my dad was conservative, but I never thought about politics. And then in college, I heard about Bernie and started becoming more leftist. But then all of a sudden, I had a couple friends who were anarcho-capitalists who were very like, you know, consent matters above everything, but also the government sucks and nothing the government does is literally ever good. And somehow that corrupted my brain. And I got too fixated on the philosophical, puritanical ideology of course, consent matters in all aspects, in every single fucking interaction. I still believe that. However, I don't translate that to mean every single action taken by a governmental body is inherently immoral and bad, because I'm more pragmatic than I was before. So
Yeah.
I went from Bernie bro to fucking ANCAP to late 2019 being like, I'm suppressing my morals. Maybe universal healthcare is a good idea because I don't want people to die. And I became like a centrist sock dem. And then the pandemic radicalized me into a leftist. And then I started reading Marx and reading like actual theory. Not that you need to. I'm not a theory humper or anything, but I started reading more theory and then being like, oh, fuck, no, I'm just like an actual socialist. Like, I'm like legitimately a literal socialist. Not a fucking higher taxes, universal healthcare socialist, like restructure society, decommodify everything socialist.
Deprivatize mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
Is private property what caused suburbs to
You could say definitely. That would
metastasize?
definitely be a part of it. Yeah. I think so. Because
are the poor communities that are destroying suburbs now, in quotes, are they paying rent? They're probably making other people
it's
richer.
rental properties. Yeah, it's rental. Exactly, it's rental properties, and it's centralizing more wealth into a few people's hands instead of like rediversifying it back into
Who
the
probably
population.
live in the cities or have multiple homes in
Right.
cities. Yeah.
Or live on the other side of the country and don't give a fuck.
Right.
And it's because if fucking land and housing, you know, the thing that we need to, I don't know, not fucking die, weren't a commodity, like, hey, maybe we
Texas.
should just let people have a home so that they don't fucking die on the street. I'm sorry. I don't care how cheap you think it is. That's disgusting. Just like
That's really
heat
what
and
it all
water.
comes down to, yeah.
Like I don't care how cheap you think water and heat is, but I think everybody should have that. Oh my God, I'm a fucking commie, I guess. I think everybody should maybe not die in the fucking winter.
and not to...
We've grown past this. Humans have grown past the point of needing to care about that shit. America is so fucking rich. We could give everybody food, shelter, and heat and water. It's not an issue. And this is a fucking
post-capitalism is hitting hard in 2021. And not to show our true influences right now, but I was watching Vosh today, and
Oh yeah, a lot of people hate Vosh, so watch out. Yeah.
I don't really understand why, honestly. But
Take him out of context.
Yeah, he was talking about like how the amount of empty homes is like astronomically higher than the amount of people who are homeless in the U.S.
Yes, abso-fucking-lutely.
And I was just like, complex problem, simple fucking solution. Like, just let these people live in houses. It's easy.
Here's a simple. It's so fucking. It's like just have an ounce of empathy. Honestly, here is a simple fucking like hypothetical for people who maybe don't understand this or don't agree with us. The housing market is constantly built on like constantly rising prices of houses. This is part of the reason why the 2008 financial crash happened. You know, most of it was because they were bundling a bunch of fucking...
They were letting
I don't
banks
remember the
run
term.
wild, basically.
Yeah, they were letting banks run wild, and they were letting them bundle
Yeah.
a bunch of, like, shitty loans together into, like, AAA loans and making them seem better than they were, and that eventually led to the crash, blah, blah, blah. It's a big fucking
This was
thing.
the Obama
But
era, by the way. Obama fucking sucks. Fuck Obama.
Yeah. Well, this
See
is right
my
after Bush.
recent tweets
but
about
yes,
him.
this was more exacerbated by just America in general, but also, yes, fuck Obama.
Yeah.
He fucking sucks. He's a terrible goddamn president. But part of the reason is the general mentality of everything needs to constantly inflate. Everything constantly needs to rise in prices. Everything needs to constantly get better and better and better and better and better because all you're looking for is profit.
Yep.
So the housing market is constantly like, houses need to constantly every year get more expensive.
Well, that's the only
Because
way capitalism
that
can operate, though.
Exactly. And that supposedly benefits the population, whereas if you think about it, if you're already poor and everything's constantly getting more fucking expensive, how do you get out of being poor?
Yeah.
Not everybody can be a small business owner. Not everybody can have a fucking good idea for an app. Not everybody can fucking make the next fucking like just massive corporation like Bill Gates and fucking Jeff Bezos. Like this is
and you
not
can't have time
realistic.
to have ideas and have a second business if you're working 2 or 3 jobs just to pay for your rent and car.
Exactly. So this is another thing. Most rich people, everybody technically owns property. The difference is most rich people own profiting property, as in they own land, they own businesses, they own shares, things that in our culture are constantly expanding, whereas poor people own property like cars, TVs, apartments. So they are in debt from school or rent. They are owning cars who are constantly depreciating and have zero value or negative value. So the ability to get out of your predicament if you're poor is impossible. There's stickiness at both ends. If you're very poor, you're likely to stay poor. Almost your generations after you likely to stay poor. If you're very rich, generations after you likely to stay rich. If you're in the middle, you might swing back and forth a little bit, but generally you're going to stay in the same area. Like,
yeah. That's something the articles mentioned too. Like, just because people are finding cheaper housing alternatives in suburbs, if they're a poor family, doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be able to jump out of their, tax bracket into a higher one because they have to buy a car. They're losing their income to rent, and
they
taking
still have
care of
shitty
their
schools.
property and land and whatever. Yeah, it just piles up, and it's so dialectical, and you can't break the system just by moving to a suburb. I guess I don't know how we want to wrap this up. Yeah.
There's no way to wrap this up.
Unfortunately, our one avid listener from who is also my friend mentioned last week that we didn't wrap up last week in a satisfying way. So I don't know if that's ever gonna happen.
There's just it's really hard to, because I feel like we just ramble a lot, which is good or bad. We'll try to figure out a better structure, but I don't particularly care.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to care when we don't have a huge audience. Like, if we had more audience input, then it'd be easier to tailor to their needs.
Audience. Let's guilt you. Hold on. Audience.
That's a call to action.
Why don't you fucking interact with us? Come on.
I
if you want
tweeted
us to
3
get
times
better
today.
We're trying really hard.
Anyway, yeah, we just wanted to rant about how suburbs fucking suck. I guess I live in a suburb, even though I live in a condominium.
I technically do too. I live in Cleveland Heights.
Yeah.
But if you want to be hyper technical, it's an old suburb, so it's like a ton more trees and shit, but it's still got the same problems where it's too many single family homes.
Oh yeah.
And it's probably
Everyone
not
owns their own
profitable.
car.
That's probably why the local Cleveland Heights tax is way fucking higher than the Cleveland local tax.
Yeah, we didn't even do like a lot of research into like property taxes and how those are broken up and what they exactly fund and how much of it funds police and blah, blah, blah. We could go on and on and on, and that's the trouble with having a leftist podcast is it just gets too fucking dialectical and you can't talk about anything without getting too broad.
Yeah, we had this discussion before of just like, God, this could get a little big. And I'm kind of glad we decided to not go too research heavy and just like drink and just chat about it.
Yeah, me too.
Because this could have been really boring and really long. If you want just listen. Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think so, but you know, who knows? If the audience would interact with us more, we would know. No, it's fine.
Once again,
anyway. Call to action. But one more time, I just want to say, if you are listening, check out the small channel Echo Gecko.
Yeah, we will definitely link it in the description.
I've been fucking with my headphones, so if there's a weird fucking noise, I apologize. But Echo Gecko, we'll link it. I recommend his channel. It is very in-depth. There's a ton of research, and it is guaranteed to piss you off.
It's going to black pill you. Be prepared.
It might. Yeah, it might make you very apathetic.
Anyway, idiots. These are two idiots who have talked to you now for a little bit about
for an hour.
Various things that plague modern society. But my name is Nate.
I'm Will.
Have a good one.
I will complain at you at a later date. All right, goodbye.
Bye-bye.